And so I am curious to know if you could talk to us about gender identity, your journey a little bit.
I've been on testosterone for 2 years now with no destination in mind. I think there's something about just being able to explore gender without commitment is, I think, important to people and should be allowed. I just felt like that was something I wanted to try because honestly, because I could. I feel like gender is fluid.
There's something very liberating about that. I personally wished that I had examples and definitions like that when I was growing up. That's the world I wish I had grew up in. Welcome to the Narrative Disruption Podcast. All right. I'm going to stop there with the book questions for now. Something may come up in the other parts of it that talk to the book, but now I want to talk more to Sydney, the human, right? And I don't want to introduce this. So I would like you to introduce this, but okay. I want you to, and we've talked about this before, I'm not just springing this on them, but I am using them, right, as your pronoun. And probably it showed in the bottom third at some point before this moment. So people have seen it, but I didn't meet you as a them. And so that is something also that has changed, at least the outward appearance of it has changed since we met each other. And so I am curious to know if you could talk to us about gender identity, your journey a little bit, and then we're going to tie it into like art and how it affects art. But yeah, just as much as little as you want to share about that.
Yeah. I think I came out as non-binary my senior year of college. And I remember distinctly where I was with my partner. We were walking around the park and I was just like, I'm kind of into like the she, her thing anymore. He was like, well, don't. And I was like,
yeah, that sounds about right.
Then, don't then sit with something else. Like, you don't have to be that. And I was like, yeah, I've been dabbling within art and that I consume and the art that I make, that I depict a lot of trans people. I like engage with a lot of trans media. And I just like, it felt like it fit. Because I don't think it was necessarily something growing up that I didn't feel a connection to. Like I was, I don't have like, I guess for myself, an experience where I didn't feel like a girl as a girl when I was growing up. Like that's who I was then. This is who I am now in a very tangible way. And I do kind of feel like I sit in an agender space, which for folks, that just means you don't really, you're non-binary, but you're not necessarily, leaning towards any kind of male or female, masculine, feminine type of space. You are kind of neither. And that's where I feel most comfortable. I've been on testosterone for 2 years now with no destination in mind. I think there's something about just being able to explore gender without commitment is, I think, important to people and should be allowed. And I think then, whether you are a binary trans person or not, or non-binary, if you want to like do any kind of gender affirming kind of stuff, that's cool. But also no pressure if not. I just felt like that was something I wanted to try because honestly, because I could. I am in a privileged space that I could take advantage of it, and thought, I think I would regret not seeing what this felt like, even if I changed my mind. And I think that was important to me, was like, you can change your mind. Like, all things in life are fluid. I feel like gender is fluid. You may not feel this way 2 years from now. And I still do. And we're going to see where it goes. But that's where gender feels important to me, is that like it's liminal. It's vast. It's abstract. It's personal. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
There's something very liberating about that. I personally wished that I had examples and definitions like that when I was growing up. I know that my children are growing up in a space where we are a lot more open to things that they shouldn't be unconventional, but they were unconventional for when I was a child.
Sure.
From loving unicorns and mermaids and like letting that be as opposed to saying that's what girls play with, just small things like that, to painting nails and just, being curious about the different clothes that they wear.
Right.
That's the world I wish I had grew up in. And that's the world I'm trying to create for my children because, and this is the thing that you said that really hits home with me, that is not a zero-sum game. It is not, I choose to be this thing and I'm going to die on this hill.
Exactly.
It's, I'm exploring existence, and part of existence is gender. And I grew up in a world where it was this. I'm privileged to have learned that it can be more different. And I'm going to find where I feel most comfortable.
Absolutely.
But it's not even the finding the most comfortable part. It's the freedom to explore that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many young people who don't have that freedom to explore. In my case, it's because I didn't see it. I didn't know it existed. And my parents, for their part, didn't know it existed either. They didn't grow up in a world where they had this terminology. And to their credit, as they grew older and the world grew different, they made an attempt, are making attempts to understand it. So this goes to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
As an artist, two-parter. One, are you able to have the same flow state with who you are and your identity as an artist? Because you started saying like, I wanted to draw comics. I didn't go to school for comics because I didn't think that was going to be a thing. But now I'm back to comics. Mm-hmm. So thematically, and even inside of the different spaces where you give your art or share your art, have you been that open with that process? And part two of the question is, actually, it's a totally different question. This is my first time doing a podcast. I'm working on it. Go ahead. First question.
I might need you to reword.
Okay, repeat
to restructure that.
All right, cool. We're not going to cut that either. This is a learning moment for all podcast hosts in the world. Okay, here we go. Here's the question. You have come to a place where you have a freedom, have given yourself permission to explore gender. I know sometimes artists, myself included, can get stuck in a genre or stuck in a style, right? This is what I do. And I have to keep doing this because this is what I've been known for doing. This is the thing that people told me I'm best at. It's another form of identity. And so do you have that same freedom inside of your art? And if you do, how did you get to that?
Thank you for restructuring.
That was a much better question the second time.
I would say so. And I definitely think it took like leaving art school and actually living like outside of that space and having just a humbling, time of not making art, honestly. I mean, it was really quite depressive, actually. It was in a really bad space. I was kind of like post-grad because I was having the identity crisis of like, actually, I don't think I went and knew what I wanted to do at all. What was the point of all that?
4 years.
Let's go. Debt.
Yeah.
So I think it was really like humiliating almost to just come from like this really like grand experience and meet like really talented people that are your peers and you're being like, I want some of that. Yeah. But like not getting it and not having it and almost like restricting yourself from getting it because of whatever expectation I felt like I had to be at to deserve it or to just go after it like unabashedly. I was just too self-conscious, just like as a person in like every way, shape or form. I would say the person I am now is like significantly less like self-conscious. And that just comes with like being okay with like being authentic, I think, and just like owning yourself a bit more. So I think with art, it's helped to also make art in completely different ways. Like I have a lot of like art projects I try to do that are not 2D illustration, that are not comics, and that are just to make art. They're not something I'm like trying to make money off of. I'm just like, I just like to do this, and I'm really just doing it to make it for my friends, because I need to do something else. Like otherwise, this is too like this is not fulfilling. and it becomes where like the only kind of art you're making is the art you're making for money or for your career. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pressure. That's not going to make me inspired. So I need to do other things. But I feel like for when it comes to, I guess, what I would maybe call my career art, or at least my illustration practice, like it feels like I've been in a kind of certain genre for a long time that I have had a like love and hate relationship with, of like, maybe I should break out of it. Maybe this is doing anything for me. But like, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah, the time is not yet. Yeah.
I think like it's something that like, it's such a personal project to me, is the kind of like the work I do with that, specifically my science fiction work. It is such a personal thing to me, and it's so vast that I feel like it's something I can always like be learning and applying to the work.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like that's why I haven't left it. Is like, oh, I feel like I'm still in like the elementary phase of these kind of concepts for this genre. Like, and then the more I learn, the more other work I'm seeing in this genre, the more work I'm just seeing that's like even like political theory, are all things that could be applied to this. So it's kind of like endless.
Yeah,
Like,
no, you're absolutely right. I think so my oldest son is an artist, and sometimes I get nervous because he's burning through concepts like we burn through so many things in our society. You know, I'm watching this video, it's only halfway through, but I'm kind of sort of not into it anymore. New video, right? I think I get the gist of it. New video.
Yeah.
And so I hope, because he is so talented, that he can spend a little more time dwelling in a space where it may be like, I'm not having fun, but I'm getting better, so that the things that I see in my head can actually be created in the real world. Absolutely. Right? And so I love the idea that you are, you know, being patient with that process and understanding that like the art itself is a vessel for all of the different, and that's, you know, so you talked about not doing art for a couple of years, but you lived. And I had a very similar experience where I did a bunch of poetry and then I kind of hit a wall after not achieving something I wanted to achieve. And it's similar, like embarrassing, kind of like humiliated, like I was this person for such a long time, and now that is not my identity anymore. But in that space, Poetry Now, Split This Rock, DCU Slam Team, lots of learning. And then I found a new way to have a relationship with poetry and writing. One of the things that I tell young artists is, if you don't have a life, you can't depict it.
Yeah.
So how does that play into your art? Like, how do you create a balance between living and experiencing life and creating art?
It's tough to say. I feel like it's so different from person to person. And this feels like almost a non-answer, but like you kind of have to, I mean, ease off yourself. I mean, the kind of pressures that you're putting on yourself to be like, well, what am I not hitting? What am I not doing yet? Where do I think I need to be that I'm not doing? And then with me, I know it became like a shame spiral of like being like, okay, well, now I'm going to shame myself enough that that's the motivator of like, well, what else are you going to do? You just spent all this money on art school. Like, you're in debt. Like, you need to make this work or else. Kind of mentality that I was like, honestly running with up to like maybe like last year, 2 years ago. And until the more I was like vocalizing that, and people were like, you okay? like that's not probably the way you should be. You shouldn't be doing things out of shame. Like, I mean, even if you find that this is like giving you positive results, like it's still out of a negative motivator and like emotion that is not actually serving you and is still tied with a, you know, self-consciousness that you haven't, I think, broken out of yet. And so that was helpful, was to be like, stop feeling so much shame over this, dude. Like, just make art. Like, what else are people asking you to do?
Yeah.
Or like, what else are you asking yourself to do as a person? Like there's not a whole lot, I feel like, right now that besides just be happy, make the people around you happy, treat others with kindness, and make art. And like, otherwise the rest is just So it's whatever.
It's whatever.
It's whatever.
It's sometimes it doesn't seem worth focusing our attention on. So we are in the narrative disruption part of the podcast. And narrative disruption is a type of storytelling that we teach here at LMS Voice. It is a combination of many types of storytelling that I've learned throughout my career. And it is at its center, stories for change. And we work in a multitude of mediums, working on our own projects and with partners to help them cultivate stories to disrupt harmful narratives in the world. And I introduced you at the beginning as someone that I think embodies that idea. And I got the receipts for it. So.
Okay. I was like, that's generous.
Because I think the harmful narrative about narrative disruptors is that it's the people that we study in our school books, right? And there are some of them in there, but it's the mother who takes their child to get the treatment they need when they come out and say, I'm trans, right? They in a family, in a world or a community where they know that that's going to be looked down upon. Right. It's an action that's going against the narrative that I have to do what everybody else in this space has to do when I see that it's harming someone. Right. And so it's small, it's everyday things, but at the end of it, it's about choices. It's about choosing to do the thing that you believe is right, because no matter how miraculous an outcome is, it is always derived from somebody's choice. Right. And so I want to take you back to the beginning of our conversation where you introduced yourself. One of the staples of how we tell stories in a narrative disruptive space is giving people opportunity to name themselves. And the thing that you named at the beginning was, I want you to see me as a person
that is practicing life without cynicism.
Practicing life without cynicism, which is so on point with who I am right now and the work that I do. Because if anyone asked me at any point in time while I was working with young people, what the thing that I was working against, I was working for young people, but I was working against cynicism. The cynicism of youth being desensitized and having their innocence taken away from them at too early an age, the desensitization and the cynicism of adults who may have started in a space because they were passionate about it, but have kind of been beat down by a system that does not really recognize our humanity. All of those things breed a cynicism that makes people think, well, why the F try?
Right.
So you brought it up.
I did.
What are some of the things that you do to live your best self away from a cynicism that may seem comfortable to you?
A very simple thing I feel like that has helped move me away from cynicism is just embracing joy and kind of like a wonder and a joy in also the small. Like, I think that's the thing that seems maybe a little like, I don't know, cutesy or whatever, but I think that there is something actually like substantially healing to be able to like enjoy like a sunset like it's, or enjoy a certain smell of fall, like, and be like, I'm here on this place with so many different people and like there's so much going on. Like, that is a wonder in a ways that it's really heavy, and it's that really like pressure. That's the cynicism that like kind of pushes you down. But I think there is like, I don't know, there's just, it's, how do you live, I think, if too much cynicism and like nihilism crushes you down? I just don't fundamentally believe that people are innately bad.
Yeah.
That like, if I did, I don't think I'd be doing half as well.
Yeah.
And it stunts your growth, I think.
Half as well, or the type of work that you do. Speaking of this book, we went live on pre-sales maybe a week ago, and I couldn't sleep the night before. and it wasn't anticipation. It was guilt and shame because there's so much happening in the world right now. And even here at LMS Voice, with our small reach and network, we have been trying to be very intentional about splitting our attention and making sure that we are speaking about things that are happening in this world that we don't agree with.
Right.
But like I was about to tell the world in this very chipper video that I had recorded about this beautiful thing that I was putting into the world, and I didn't feel happy about it. The cynicism was winning that entire night, because it's like, what for? Why am I putting out a book of art? Not only are the children dying, but like AI is taking over, and like who's going to care about my art and poetry or drawings? All of that was in my head, and I was able to pull back the next day and talk to people that I care about and that care about me outside of anything that I offer the world. And the realization that I came to was that if I can't touch joy, how can I fight to create it in other people's lives? And I see in your work joy on the faces of people who don't immediately look like they fit into society neatly. So I want to give this moment to talk about how your art and choices you make as an artist disrupt harmful narratives, and maybe narratives that were even harmful to you growing up.
Sure. I think an aspect of my work right now is I'm almost over consuming like this media right now that is kind of almost nihilistic and bleak, and because I'm fascinated by it. Because it feels like, again, it's this exact opposite of what I feel like I personally philosophically believe in, especially for just my own art making. I see the value in its existence, but as a reactionary, I think I take it and I'm like, well, how can I be the counter to that? Because I think there is space to be able to make that work and to critique what is the worst of the worst, the things that are bleak and sad and cynical. But, you know, like for me, myself, it feels important to show that in positivity, and that whether that is showing people who are experiencing closeness and intimacy and joy and warmth, like that feels very important to me to capture that in the work that I'm currently exploring and been exploring for like several years now. It just feels like it doesn't take any kind of conscious thinking to just be like, this is what I want to make. Like, this is what's inspiring me right now, is like warmth, closeness, like intimacy. How does that look? And especially it's usually for people that I'm exploring that are, you know, gender fluid, trans, like bodies that are not always depicted the same way that we see in a lot of, I guess, mainstream media, I suppose. I think like something that is important to me is like with art I want to make and explore as I go further in my career is, again, let's like lack of subtlety. Like I love work that's not subtle. Yeah. And people that are very authentic and genuine in a flamboyant, very, just unabashed. I think that's beautiful. And I think that's how I personally try to live my life. It's just like unencumbered. Yeah. And I think that that's where I see with so much like queer joy and like flamboyancy, like this presence that is all consuming, and you can't help but stare at them in like in splendor. And that's the kind of art that I want to make. And I hope that I'm starting to, you know, kind of trickle into. But that is how I feel like I'm acting cynicism, is just like embracing authenticity, embracing that we are people who look lots of different ways, who are just experiencing ourselves in a very like openly joyful way. And yeah, I think that's very important to have both. There needs to be a balance for both.
Yeah. Thank you for that answer. One of the poems in the book is called Dear Me. And it's an exercise where I imagine going back and having a conversation with my middle school self. Shout out Hayfield, 8th grade middle school. And a lot of times, I think when people work in youth work, they are trying to create the spaces that they didn't have growing up. And it makes me think of this question, which is, if adolescent, teenage Sydney found your Instagram page, how would it make them feel? And was that something you needed to have seen back then?
Honestly, probably, yeah. I think, high schooler me, kid me was like riddled with so much social anxiety and like it made me sick. Like I physically couldn't do certain things because it made me so anxious, and that stopped me from doing a lot of things that genuinely I would have loved to have done more of. And art making was the only like really like present way I could just be doing whatever I wanted to do. But I thought I was a little edgy kid, a little edgy teenager. I was, emo.
An edgy emo. Watch out, streets.
Yeah, I was an emo kid. So I was, very like, oh, woe was me, the darkness. For like nothing.
Oh, man.
For nothing. Like.
But I mean, can I push back on that?
Yeah.
Because I think the misperception is, because you exist in a space where you don't physically need something, right? It wasn't, there was food on the table, you went to bed, the lights were on, you felt safe, you went to school, da. But that doesn't speak to your soul, right? And I think there are tangible oppressions and then there's spiritual oppressions, right? So yes, there is trauma happening in a space where someone is not being able to grow up around the resources that we may have here. However, if you just stop with resources and you don't speak to the human and you don't create spaces for them to be free and authentic, there is a spiritual oppression that makes people sick, that excludes them without them quite even understanding why it's happening, from doing things that not only would bring them joy, would probably bring more joy into the world, period. Because your joy adjacent is my joy, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to give you that.
I appreciate that.
that gift. It's that's real. I mean, I grew up in the same, like feeling something was missing, but like not being able to see it. Right. Yeah. Right. Like, all right, well, you woke up again in Springfield, Virginia, and like you walk downstairs and you open the refrigerator, there's food in it. Why are you sad? How dare you be depressed walking through the high schools, be a drama kid, as I was, that's where I went to feel things. But yeah, it's very real. And yeah, so yeah, I see you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I think honestly, I think you would literally did give me that, because I probably would say that younger me felt the most like there was that buoy being thrown out, or just some kind of lifesaver, life ring, whatever. That was adults who were not not BSing you. They're just being honest and real with you. And I think that's what helped me, being it's okay. Surprised having supportive adult mentor figures do a lot for a kid.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that's something I tell my friends in my life who are teachers as well, or who are, working with youth. And I was like, this is just my 2 cents. I don't work with the youth. I don't know. But it does so much for any person to just feel reminded that they have their own autonomy, that they're given respect as a person, no matter what age you are. That is the bare minimum. In trust, it does a lot for people, because it did a lot for me. So I feel that's where I've come to now as an adult. It's just being again, how are you letting yourself just be a person, and like in any way that looks, which means like fallible, fluid, in flux and in learning. Like that's really important to not be so hard on yourself about it. And yeah, having like a strong support circle, like again, mind-blowing information is that like it does a lot for your personal growth, and how you have relationships with people is they're stronger, and you become stronger with them by having those kinds of folks in your life that are constantly teaching you and you're learning with them. I think little me would have been like, oh, yeah. That guy doesn't know nothing. Like they weren't ready for anything if they saw like my Instagram now or the kind of work I'm making, the support circle I have. The person I am now is completely different, and I hope that's where most people are, like that they can be proud to show who they are to like their younger selves. Like the little like,
look at what we became.
Yeah, like
we did this.
Yeah, it's cheesy, but like it does do a lot.
Couple more questions. Do you think of yourself as a role model when you are creating your art and deciding which characters you're going to represent? Are you thinking about the effect it's going to have in the world, or are you not merely satisfying, but only seeking to satisfy your artistic craving?
I would say it's primarily been self-motivated and like hoping that it is reaching out to folks that are similarly interested. I think the fact that I do kind of niche genre-based work, I think that is not super connective for people that don't indulge in that kind of work. So they may not know where I'm coming from. I think that's fine. And I used to be more like, why does no one get it? And it's like, not everyone has to like science fiction. Yeah. But it's there for the people that like it. And it's there for people who maybe don't get it, but if they like it, they like it. I hope that it is, at the very least, expressing what we were just, previously saying is warmth, joy. Like, to me, when I was first getting into at least depicting like at least science fiction type work, it was reactionary to feeling like this work did look a very specific way, and that I wasn't seeing enough like people making the kind of work that I was making. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that are making like trans sci-fi work. There is a lot of them now, but they're all like, doing their thing in their lane and chilling. But like, I want that to be the standard. Yeah. I want to selfishly be like, this is what's always been. And like, let's make this work more and more and push back against that kind of idea, I guess, that this has to look a certain way.
Yeah.
I want to be amongst those folks and join that. So I feel like that's the work I cater for, is like, I mean, at the very least, people that like to make weird art.
Yeah.
Me and the weirdos.
Yeah. No.
Even though it's not even that weird.
But in the most beautiful way. Like I try to reclaim words, right? And weirdo is one of those words I would love to reclaim. And I try to with my children, because my son will say something is weird, the 4-year-old, and the first thing is like, weird, like how? Right. Because first, are you even using the right word to describe it? But, is it peculiar? Is it interesting? Is it dangerous? Does it make you feel, unusual, or in a way that you are not comfortable feeling? Stop. Hang out with that feeling for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's cool being weird sometimes.
It's really, I don't know.
Right? Like when, if you look around and everything is the same and you're doing all the same things and you don't feel challenged by your existence, get yourself a little weird. And what I think is beautiful about it is that the more art that I see that is different than what I grew up with, what I'm realizing now is not that this stuff is just like all of a sudden like spreading like a virus somehow. Right. But like, this is an innate part of our human experience that has been subverted for many, many years by not having but two choices. And like, it's not like trans people are creating more trans people, or gay people are creating more gay people, or non-gender people are making more non-gender binary people. What they're doing is by living their truth, giving other people permission to live their truth.
Absolutely.
And that is a beautiful legacy to be a part of, and a narrative worth contributing to. So we have our speed question round.
Right.
But before we do that, I do like to give space. I'd like to say for all of my guests, I think this is a good idea. Whenever I talk to people in like a public space when I'm hosting something, is there anything that you want to add to this? You know, thinking back about what we said, or some sound bite or something, or a gratitude thank you to someone in your life that has positively affected you, or just anything. Now, if you don't say something, it's going to look like you don't think anyone helped you get here. And I'm here. I'm right here. You could say Joseph.
There's a lot to say.
Or the two Brians. Either one. No, but really.
You know,
is anything
definitely shout out to the two Brians.
The two Brians, right?
And you, Joseph. Definitely, you know, can't say enough. You guys were very like fundamental, I think, to my teenage years of growing into like sense of self, and like it was really cool, like having folks who were like showing me like punk music at the same time, and like really cool books I'd never read, and like showing me the world of like slam poetry, where like you're getting so many people of all walks of life and community that like that definitely like helps like radicalize you and make you like get outside of your bubble and be uncomfortable and sit with experiences you don't have and be like, okay, I'm listening, I am seated, I'm present, and I've never taken that for granted. I've always felt like that's been like super important to have that community and space to just say your piece. I mean, I'm grateful. My parents have always been really supportive. This is not like
supportive parents. Hey.
Super cool, the trans thing. So that to say, like, it's always been love. Like it's just, when do you give yourself the love back? I think like that's the big thing of like back around to the edgy emo kid thing, is like, when do you love yourself back? Because like everyone else has been showing it to you the whole time, and then you're like, okay, no, I can't accept it. No.
Not me. Anyone wants to be in this club is not
like it couldn't be me. Like that's a different
kind. What was that quote I was just trying to say? I wouldn't want to be a member. I wouldn't want to be a part of any club that would have me as a member. That idea, and that's that negative speak inside of your head. And it's what's funny about that is just like people assume that narrative disruption is just about like the world and politics, and it's also about the voices that are inside your head, because this is where all of these things out here manifest. Right.
And where are you, like, if that's blocking you already, then how are you going to bring it out to the people around your community, like organizing all that? Totally. Like it definitely has to like start within. And disrupting that harmful narrative in our own brains. All right, it is time. Are you ready? Yeah. For the question. I just came up with this. I'm doing a rapid succession 5 questions, but I'm making them up as I go. And if everyone's wondering why I'm not looking into a camera, because I'm talking to Conrado, who seems nervous that I'm about to do something we didn't talk about. But that's okay. I am the king of improv. I'm not. I'm not. All right. I know I'm not. All right. Here we go. And you just have to answer them as quickly as you can. If you say something cancelable, we'll cut it out. All right. No, it's over.
Oh, no.
This was fun.
All right. First question. Favorite type of shoe wear?
Boot.
All right. Second question. What is the name of your spaceship?
Oh. Cinnabon came to mind for some reason.
The USS Cinnabon. There we
That's
go.
just what came off in my mind.
So sweet. So sweet.
That's a good time.
If you had to throw a party where only one song was played the entire time, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh. That's favorite flavor ice cream. It's probably honey graham.
I've never tasted honey graham ice cream. What? Like,
Baltimore, baby, to Harka Brothers. This is a plug. They made.
Please sponsor us. Say that louder. No. Okay, cool. So that was 3 questions. Fourth question.
Wait, my nose ring. Okay.
What is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Walk.
In the
I
rain?
like to go for a little walk. If it's pouring, forget about it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, even so.
Yeah.
I love to have a little rainy day walk.
Rainy day walk. Okay. You said it like it was a treat on the table. I like to have a little rainy day walk.
I feel like in particular, if it's raining, I'm like, oh, I got to get out there at least once. And the rest of the day, it's like stay home and probably play video games and be in a blanket.
If you had to live in any other country besides America, what country would you not want to visit, but like live in?
With the limited experience in my mind, I'm thinking Ireland.
Ireland. You've been there?
No.
Oh.
No, but
what other countries have you been to?
I've been to Britain. I've been to Germany. Dabbled with France and Austria while in Germany and Japan.
Wow. All of those countries are worse than imagined Ireland. You heard it here first from Sydney Long.
I got no beef with anyone else. There's no beef. Those were all great places to visit, but there's
no. But yeah,
go back to the homeland.
Yes, go back to the homeland.
Go to Ireland.
Are you Irish?
Probably.
I am Irish.
I'm probably more German though, so that is the home one.
I did 23andMe, and like
yeah.
the part of me. So my great grandfather is a white dude, and so he must have been like all Irish because a third of me is still Irish.
Can you trace back the green roots, and you can like go?
So we can. So I'm on my father's side. It's the Underwood roots. Mm-hmm. So my green is my grandfather's name.
Okay.
But it's my grandmother's family that we've been able to trace back the furthest.
Gotcha.
Everything stops at slavery. But what is interesting with 23andMe is I can jump over slavery and at least know what regions of Africa I come from.
So which were?
So don't ask me that on camera because I don't remember right now. Bye.
Cut that. Cut that.
I was looking really good. That was a really great answer to a really great question. I said Africa and everything, and then you were like, be specific.